Hey, what's up everyone, and welcome to another brand new video here on the Magic and Thrills. Hey, what's up everyone, this is Sean, and welcome to another brand new video here on the Magic and Thrills. Now, it's been a while since I made a video, and I apologize for that, but I wanted to really get back into the swing of things. There's been a whole ton of news and content about Halloween Horror Nights lately, with the events starting up in about just about a month here, as well as Universal Horror Unleashed, and a bunch of all that stuff. So today I wanted to make another brand new video that's covering some of the stuff that happened or that's been happening primarily today on the Universal Horror Unleashed experience. Now on the Discover Universal YouTube page, or I guess their podcast page, whatever you want to call it, they're kind of like our mix of pages and that kind of thing in podcasts. But they did interview two of the creatives of the team that are primarily, or I guess part of the primary team behind Universal Horror Unleashed, and I wanted to kind of highlight some of the things that they mentioned in the actual podcast interview with them, because it was up until now, I should say, there has not been much, if any, details about Universal Horror Unleashed besides the basic things. So like pricing, a few hype videos that they put out, and then just the houses themselves, and kind of like brief little instances of what the actual experience would be like, essentially. And so I bought tickets to opening weekend for the Las Vegas Universal Horror Unleashed experience, and I'm super stoked to be going there. So I'll be there on Sunday if anyone else is there to say hi or what's up or hang out, whatever. So I'm stoked for that. But basically, there hasn't really been much of any details or information about really what the experience is, or how it really differentiates itself from just regular Halloween Horror Nights. So the podcast that they did with the creative team really dove in further somewhat. There's a lot of fluff in it, which is kind of frustrating for me, just because I feel like it's one of those podcasts where they don't really give out too much details really at all, but they still pull out some information, and it's just kind of a lot of fluff. But either way, so basically what my take from it, because I'm not going to put any of it on here just for the recording of it, but basically my takeaway from it, from what they said, is that they are saying it is a whole new brand of not just horror, obviously, but a whole new brand to the Universal Horror experience. It is not in any way related to Halloween Horror Nights, to the experience, because they said that one major thing that they really wanted to focus on, because I guess it's been a project, they said, for at least 2 or 3, 4 years in some cases, when the team began to create the idea about Horror Unleashed. And now there's also been a Chicago one announced as well that's going to be coming out in a couple years. But so it's a whole different brand, it's a whole new identity for Universal Horror. It's not Halloween Horror Nights. It'll have, they said, a lot of the same ideas that worked or are working for Halloween Horror Nights, but it's going to be a very different, complete experience overall. And they said that one of the reasons why is because they said that primarily is because one of the biggest areas of feedback that they got from all the surveys we always get after going on our Universal vacations is that people want to have a year-round HHN, basically. And so they didn't want to put it into either Hollywood or Orlando because of the obvious reason of kind of just subsidizing the existing experiences that they're already there, because those are already, as they called it, juggernauts and huge epic experiences for the seasons that they're in already. So they wanted to really put it into in a city, for the first one at least, or an experience place where people go in general to have entertainment, which is Las Vegas for sure. But they also wanted to do Vegas because they wanted to really have a place where, whether you're brand new to Universal Horror, because they didn't really use the words, they didn't use the whole Horror Nights naming, honestly, a lot in the podcast. So they kept on calling it what it is, which is Universal Horror. So they didn't really do too much of like HHN mentioning. Like, they did bring it up in the beginning of how it was inspired, but they didn't really do much beyond that as far as like name dropping. They definitely made it sound like its own brand, because it is, essentially. So, but anyway, so they went into detail very much about how the funnest thing about HHN is how it's a temporary thing, but that the one downside to them as a creative team is always that once you are, so to speak, done with the haunted house, then you're still in a Universal theme park, and that they wanted to really take that experience where the energy level drops a little bit from when you come out of a haunted house and you're just kind of back in the theme park, and you see, and then all the coasters and all the rides are right there. But they wanted to take that experience and really re-escalate it up to make it feel where you are never out of the experience of Universal Horror, which is really really a cool idea, and it's not something I was really thinking about before. They did explain also how even from before you even enter the building, that it's not really meant to be even seen as a normal building or as like as an entertainment facility, so to speak. Because in the area, because I was looking for when I was making my own travel plans, and the area it's in, which is Area 15, has a lot of other area of entertainment things like such as like the John Wick experience and a bunch of other really cool stuff too. But they wanted to really separate itself away from that experience overall and make it a whole different thing, which is what the idea behind how the building looks, which I've not seen before. I haven't seen any photos of what the actual building looks like yet or anything like that. I'm going into it pretty much blind besides what's on the website and other videos that they've released. So they did mention that, so it's going to be a whole different experience for sure. And they said that it will be year round, as it's already been mentioned as well, and that they did also say that as of right now they are, that or they said that the houses themselves are more than houses, that they're basically a living, breathing experience where it's kind of like when you go into HHN and you like when you walk in initially, and there might be an obvious set piece there that's like a fourth of like a full thing, like whether it's a house being built that was built, you'll have like the front of the house essentially, and then you'll go into it and into the experience. But with Horror Unleashed, they wanted to make it a full on, because it'll be there permanently. They wanted to make it a full on living, breathing thing where it's not just going to be a little like a entranceway only. It's going to be like a full house to walk through, which is really cool and really immersive. But then again, once you are done with the experience of as far as the haunted houses go, that when you come out of it, you're still in the immersive space, the immersive experience, and that's a really cool thing too. And I love that. I love that idea, because for me personally, whenever I go to HHN, as much as I love it, I always kind of like feel like as they mentioned in the interview, I always kind of feel like whenever I walk out of the haunted house, that my like level of excitement, it doesn't drop, but it kind of dips down, because you're right back into crowds and food and all the craziness of HHN, which is part of the fun of HHN. Don't get me wrong about that, but you know what I mean. It's one of those things where it's like kind of your energy levels are always kind of fluctuating in that. So they wanted to really get rid of that part of it and make it to where like you're still in a haunted house when you're not in a haunted house, which is cool. But one thing that I wanted to mention too that I just remembered is that they also mentioned that the entire inside of the warehouse is completely filled, and they're still filling it in. They said at least like they're still looking at in their warehouses over in Hollywood, but it's completely filled with really old, rad Universal Hollywood film studio artifacts and archival things from their Universal Monsters time period. Because again, they've been in studio for horror movies for over 100 years now, which is really cool and really rad by itself. Like they did invent the genre of horror to an extent for that part of it. So one of the creators, like that was one thing he really wanted to hit on. He said it's a very very like you will be educated heavily if you want to be educated heavily, especially by scare actors and things like that, with the Universal horror history. He said that they are training their scare actors to know the history of Universal horror and to give you a deep dive if you ask for it, but it's also made for just a casual fan who has no idea what HHN is or what Universal horror is. None of like just a very walking into it blindly, so where they can have a good experience too. So they didn't get asked really about if the houses will change or how that will work or anything like that. So I don't know how that's going to work. They didn't really go into that because again, there was a lot of fluff. And there was an hour-long podcast with about 35-40 minutes of actual discussion going on and kind of back and forth like blah. But it was more information than we had before, which is what I wanted to hear from it. So for me, my outtakes from it is that I think that again, because it's not meant to be. I think this is a big misconception of it from when it was announced, because it was announced I think over a year ago, or it seems like it was over a year. I'm not sure. I can't remember the exact announcement date, but I remember a lot of people on YouTube especially were kind of commenting or saying that it was a mistake to have it open up like a week or two before HHN starts in Orlando, and that it's got all the same houses as what has been happening or what's been in previous years for Orlando and Hollywood. And they did mention that it will not be like those, that there's going to be a lot more detail that's involved in the houses themselves, and that there's very, very unique merch, unique food, unique everything, and it's even more. They said it's more unique for those instances than either Hollywood or Orlando is, and that really it's kind of like I mean they basically said that it's HHN on steroids, where it's really meant to be where you can walking in there and you are immersed from the moment that you walk in until you leave in it. But again, and I think it's cool because I love the fact that it was or it's the same pricing as a regular HHN ticket. So if you don't do any of the add-ons or because they don't have anything as far as like express passes or VIP tours, none of that stuff exists for this right now, at least as of when I'm recording this video. So I thought that would change as we got closer to the event. But as of right now, like if you just go to the Horror Unleashed website, all they have is they have the standard ticket, which is depending on the date you choose and the season that you choose, because again it's year round. It starts off like $85-$90, and then it goes up depending on the season that you go. They have like a Nevada resident discount, and then they also have, and there's two regular tickets where it's one house per, like you can go through it one time, and then I think it's like $80 for that. And the one I chose for my experience is unlimited. So one thing that I'm curious about though is that they did state also in the podcast that they have, and then they didn't really explain it in too much detail because they weren't trying to give anything away, but they did say that there is also, like for each house, that there is also like holding areas where you will actually get told a story for the experience and for the house that's much, much more in detail than what HHN is, which I appreciate because one of the creatives was saying specifically that a big reason why they did the whole entire experience in the first place is because they feel like they almost, for the amount of development and story development that they have for all their HHN houses, that they feel like that gets either extremely overlooked or kind of wiped out, because they said that basically once you, even though you might learn the story, but before you go to the HHN event or before you go into the house, if you're on like an RIP tour, for example, that you get told the story, but then as soon as you walk in the house, pretty much kind of part of it goes out the window because you're getting scared, or you're trying to get scared. So they did make a pretty big reference to that in the beginning, where they said basically after 3 or 4 seconds of being in the house, all the storytelling is sometimes gone for some people, and they wanted to really reaffirm the storytelling through the experience of each house as well. So they said that there is also, to some extent, some aspects of having holding areas where you go into a house and you would kind of like have like a pre-show. I do not know what extent that means or what it would be like or what it consists of. And that it does also seem like, from my knowledge of it, from what they said and how they explained it, that it's going to be a, you can call. But they did also explain to an extent that essentially it almost seems like it's like kind of a exclusive event, and I don't mean like as far as like ticketing goes, but more like I don't think that it's going to be nearly as sold out or as many tickets are sold as HHN goes, because they definitely made it seem like it's more of like, just they didn't make it seem like it's going to be a ton of people that are there. And it almost seems like they're also aiming to have it be a small amount, kind of like how if anyone that's watching this has ever been to Epic Universe so far, or has been tracking any of the kind of Epic Universe like crowd levels, where Universal's kind of like is like slowly amping up the crowd size every since May, since it's been open slowly over time. I kind of feel like they're going to be doing that with Horror Unleashed too, where it's going to be open to a small crowd level and then just see how it goes, and then slowly, because a lot of people I know that are part of the whole HHN world and the whole experience thing, they're not going to this yet unless they're really like me, where they're like obsessed with it in a way, but they're not really going to go to it until they kind of hear enough word of mouth to make it seem like it's worth the money. Because a lot of people right now don't like Las Vegas. Like, it's my first time visiting Las Vegas in August ever, and I'm not the kind of person that goes there. But when I heard it was there, I was like, okay, sure, whatever. It didn't really matter what city it was in. But it just seems like they are again going to kind of test the waters with crowd size and kind of see how it goes. The same way Epic Universe was kind of opened up slowly with crowd capacity. Same kind of thing as my vibe from it as well. So that's kind of what I took away from the Discover Universal podcast. Again, it was only about 35 minutes, 40 minutes of actual discussion, and there wasn't too many detailed questions because they are trying to keep it still under wraps. And for me, it's interesting because I watched it not expecting much, but I did learn at least a little bit about what it really is as far as like the building look and just overall like a little bit more information and more detail about what the houses are like. But they didn't do anything else as far as like details as far as like houses being changed out or how intense it's gonna be or anything like that. But they did say it's a very very, again, immersive experience with way more detail than HHN can have because it's a much bigger area, and they're not tied in or strapped into, or I should say contained by like actual like space. And they actually did discuss too how that the HHN in Hollywood and Orlando are also are also limited by sizing. And it's not something I ever thought about really, because I just figured that they can make whatever they wanted in those areas for Universal and Hollywood, or Orlando and Hollywood. But I guess that's not the case. I guess that they are actually tied to a certain amount of area for like square feet for like safety reasons. And I never even kind of thought about that or realized that, I guess, when I went to the events in Orlando. So that was also interesting too. They said that, but they mentioned that was part of it too. That they were super stoked to be able to kind of offer like a massive like go have fun, creatively speaking, kind of aspect to it too. So I guess that was kind of my takeaway, all that from the Discover Universal podcast. So I would love to know in the comments below, what do you guys think about the Universal Horror Unleashed experience? Are any of you have tickets like I do? Are any of you going opening weekend? Likes, dislikes? I mean, for me, again, and I don't want to make this video too long, more than it already has been, but I feel like, for me at least, it's a very, I become more and more obsessive over Universal Horror and HHN and the whole experience more and more each year. And this is only my fourth year going to HHN, because I'm actually going to Premium Scream Nights in Orlando the week after, or sorry, 2 weeks after the opening weekend of Horror Unleashed. So I'm basically flying to Vegas for like 2 days to do the Horror Unleashed opening weekend. I come home for a week, and then the next week I'm going down to do the Premium Scream Nights, because I usually go to HHN in Orlando in October, because I think it's more fun to go during Halloween. But for me, as I mentioned in videos in the past, I've kind of almost become desensitized to the experience from what HHN is because it opens so early in August now and goes through October. So by the time I end up going, I almost feel like I've seen all of it already, and it kind of almost isn't as much fun. It's still fun, but not as much fun as it could be. So this year I wanted to do something a little bit differently, and I wanted to go to HHN in Orlando, just opening weekends, and just see what it's like to have absolutely nothing of news, or how good houses are, or how good food is, or what food there is. I wanted to go into it as a brand new, like no one's seen before kind of style. So, but yeah, so if you are doing Horror Unleashed on opening weekends, let me know in the comments below. Maybe we can meet up or hang out, because I'm going by myself. And if you're doing Premium Scream Night in Orlando for HHN, let me know as well. I'll be there as well. Otherwise, thanks for watching as always, and I will see you all in the next video.